and welcome back to the inn. It's been a while.
We have been enjoying Ungoro!
We have been enjoying Ungoro. Most certainly. However, if you would read an article from Kotaku
link it down in the description?
Yes, link down in the description. Titled, Hearthstone players are trapped in a cycle of salt. You would read that players are just trapped in this cycle of salt. Or that, and I quote, Hearthstone is bad again. Or is officially bad again. Excuse me. So, first of all, I'm going to just tear right into this. This is something that essentially, when the first cycle kind of comes out, because you first see it from, like, I would say Call of Duty, they had that same sort of cycle going on of, hey, look, a new Call of Duty game's on the horizon. Oh, man, this game's so fun. Oh, no, it's shit. Yay, look, new Call of Duty game. You kind of got the same circle going on, or at least as described in this, as it's the same circle. Blizzard releases a new expansion. Community comes, oh my god, we love it! Yay! The metagame goes and evolves and just does something differently. And then it starts to actually solidify itself. And then once it starts to solidify, there's something that people don't like. And when they don't like it, it becomes a topic. And people hate it. And then people start discussing it, whether they be high-end pros or big-end YouTubers or even people like yourself or myself. We sit and we just sit around and discuss it. And we find someone who matches our opinion, and we latch on to that. And then everyone says that they hate the game, but keep playing it anyway. And then, oh look, a new expansion, yay! Alright, first thing comes first. I want to definitely just deep dive on this wholeheartedly. Because I've been playing this game since open beta.
And I've been playing it since Naxxramas, so.
Yeah. And if anything, to be perfectly frank, the worst meta I would say I had ever in my time of playing this game for 3 years had encountered would have been the meta right after Mean Streets of Gadgetzan.
Oh, man.
That meta was just, like, and I get it. I completely understand it. I remember the Undertaker meta. I remember that one being...
You know what's kind of funny? Is you're saying it's the worst meta, and when we had our awards at the end of the year, you actually said it was basically, what was it, you called it the most meta-defining set release of the year.
I was very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at that time.
Yeah,
I did not realize how bad it was going to be.
Yeah, a little of that had started at the time, but nothing to the extent of what we saw later.
Oh, yeah. When you really got into it, like after about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, it settled.
Yeah. And
then it was just the same thing over and over and over. It was rock, paper, scissors. And like I said, I remember the Undertaker meta. I remember Goblins versus Gnomes, and
remember Patron Warrior.
I remember Patron Warrior, and it's just one of those things where it's like people were like, "These metas, they're
we even remember Secret Paladin. I mean, nothing was as bad as the Gadgetzan meta.
And it's just like I remember those metas, and it's just like I remember there was at least being diversity, but with Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, it was pirates, 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 pirates. Pirates. Oh, look, there's a Reno. Pirates. Reno. Some
J Druids.
Pirate. Yeah. Druids here and there sprinkled in.
And Shaman. Can't forget Shaman.
That's what I was saying. Pirates. Because they were a part of it. They had the pirate package right splashed into their deck. And it was just... It's one of those things where it's just like, okay. Now we're in Ungoro. And things have rotated out, and basically decks that were on top and just kings buckled. And now you have this new meta. I still call it new because things are being discovered even now. You've still got things like Token Shaman that are coming out. And it's just, like, when we did our set review of Journey to Ungoro, we kind of knew what the big things were going to be. Like the big quests. And we nailed at least 2 of them.
We nailed, oh my word, we nailed Quest Rogue so hard. And the whole reason we did not want to go over how you would build Quest Rogue, go back and look at a review. We pretty much said it was going to be a meta-defining card. We basically said it was a card that everyone was sleeping on, and we even said we knew how you would build the deck. And by the way, there are some differences, but a lot of the core of the deck that's being played now was kind of what Eddie and I were looking at building at the time. We were messing around the card. We just didn't build it because we just weren't as excited about actually playing the deck compared to other decks. But we knew that kind of deck was going to be powerful. And we did not want to say exactly how you would build such a deck because we knew if that got out, it would be meta shifting and everyone would jump on it. And guess what happened?
Peekaboo! So if anything, like, you had so many different pros, or at least claim to be professional level players, sleeping on this card.
Well, there's a difference between playing the game very well and knowing how the game operates.
Yeah, I know. That's why I say so-called pros, because there are people who do call themselves professionals, and they don't go nearly as far as some of the people who are actually winning these tournaments right now.
Basically, to be a pro, you basically just have to. Pros are the ones that have a lot of like a following on YouTube and Twitch. That means they're making money from playing the game. It does not mean they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But we're getting into a whole different realm of discussion of what we really should be going into, and even with how you're discussing the article, I think you were kind of dancing around what the real issue is.
I think, in all honesty, because we take just kind of like get into the article. Bob, do you want to deep dive this article?
Well, number one, I'm going to say that as far as the cycle the article has seen, it's absolutely right. But I think I think in some ways, the article, the writer of this article, is making a fundamental mistake in thinking that the salt and the hate ever goes away. Even when people are getting hyped for the next expansion, they are salty. Even when the expansion comes out and people are excited and the meta is shifting, people are angry. The thing is, and here's the main problem we really need to talk about, and that really needs to be addressed. Look, guys, I know there are a lot of video game communities out there. I get the toxicity of the League of Legends community and how the Overwatch community can be really toxic as well. Here's the thing, though. It's not as that might be confined to a game maybe if you have a microphone on. With League of Legends, you're going to see it on your chat, but you're just dealing with the game. Here's the thing. The Hearthstone community in large, I'm not saying this is everyone, but I'm saying by and large, the Hearthstone community is one of the most toxic game communities I have ever seen. Toxic in a way that they are never happy, that they are constantly complaining. And I have never seen a group of people who play a game so much but yet hate it at the same time. It is mind-boggling. And there are, like I said, there are a lot of good players out there who don't fall in this category, and there's also a silent majority. But this is not what they're not what we're talking about when we're talking about the Hearthstone community. The Hearthstone community are the people that are talking and are communicating and that Blizzard's listening to. The people on YouTube, the people on Twitch, and on forums such as Hearthstone. By and large, you will see an incredibly toxic community.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's a sad thing. Because, like, you have people who aren't incredibly salty or tilted or angry all the time, who actually genuinely enjoy not only the game, but also playing it and discussing it. I mean, I know I'd enjoy it, and at least enjoy discussing it and talking about it at length and at large. Hello, I'm here now, and I've done videos with Bulb.
Yeah.
And we sit, and it's one of those things where it's like, we sit and discuss these things.
Yeah. But even you, and we're going to discuss about maybe where the salt and this toxicity is coming from, because I think it needs to be discussed at length. Not just, hey, this article said this, but we need to...
Yeah.
We need to, maybe dig down into the root cause of the problem, of the issue.
Let's dig.
Let's dig. But first of all, to kind of give you an idea, and this is also going to be linked down in the description below, we're going to link to a thread on Hearthstone, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. The thread essentially says, "Good job, Blizzard." In it, you actually have a user by the name of Perpenflurb. Now, you would see a thread title, "Good job, Blizzard," you're going to be going, oh no, another one of these. And by the way, look at almost any thread on Hearthstone, it's going to be an incredibly toxic, incredibly salty thread. So you were expecting salty, but no. Perpenflurb actually gives actual, honest praise to Blizzard for actually taking care of... actually, mind if I actually read this out loud, Eddie?
Go right ahead. I was actually pulling it up.
And you could probably also put a screen cap in later. When I went to play Hearthstone today, I was hit with a realization. I've been playing since the game's release, and I think this is the most I have ever enjoyed it. It is a month and a half into the expansion. There are decks of every archetype I enjoy playing. No deck is so prevalent on ladder that I am tired of facing it, and I constantly feel like I am making interesting decisions when I am playing the game. I cannot believe they accomplished all this with one expansion. It's not perfect, of course, but it's pretty incredible. I know that there are still decks out there that people dislike. I personally find Taunt Warrior pretty boring, but nothing is statistically overperforming. TLDR, thank you Blizzard for this awesome game. Please take more of my money. I mean, genuine praise. Eddie, want to guess how long it took for the Hearthstone community and the Hearthstone community to turn this wonderful this thread of people actually being, actually enjoying saying they enjoyed the game and actually not being salty at all? Do you know how long it took for the toxicity to seep in and the saltiness to seep in?
Said 5 posts.
5 posts. The first 3 posts after this opening were incredibly, they were right along like, good, yeah, good job, thank you. Like the one that followed after that said, he assumed that there was a sarcastic salt post, but instead it was a positive opinion. He's good. Pretty much it's a lot of the Hearthstone community, a lot of these people on the site are just, it's day in and day out, and you don't know why. It's constant.
You don't know what you're gonna get. It's day in day.
But within 5 posts, the toxicity seeped in.
Yeah.
They took something that was so wonderful and pure and happy, and they just crushed it.
And,
yeah.
Yeah, and here's another thing that I at least want to right at the get-go. It's not us at this point going in and basically throw them money, lick the boots of the people who have created this game because they are the top and they are the gods. No. We know for a fact that not only is there are problems fundamentally at times with Hearthstone. We're not going to excuse it. We're going to call a couple of things out in this. So if anything, just sit and bear and just give it time. It's a slow rolling sort of thing. Throw it back to Bulb.
Yeah, and we could... I wonder, and I know we're going to talk about Krip, because Kripparrian, out of all the pros and the streamers, Hearthstone streamers out there, Kripparrian is essentially the biggest example of what the problem is. And we can get into, I think we talked at length about Kripparrian as far as credentials and experience and all that when it comes to whether he is even fully qualified to make some of these judgments or to say what he's saying. TLDR, no he's not. But he's an example of the community just being incredibly toxic. Never happy, always angry, always salty, and of course the community latches onto him because he's essentially their avatar.
Entertainer.
What about
of the highest? I was going to say an entertainer of the highest regard. And if anything, I get it. I was going to put an asterisk next to your thing of no, he's not. He's the king of arena, for goodness sake. You cannot take that title away from that man. At all. He understands the fundamentals of arena. I will throw him that biggest bone for respect.
However, he does not have any... that being said, he does not have any expertise when it comes to how CCGs, our card games, our games in general, are designed, are balanced, what goes into them, what we can expect, why this is as it is, or just thinking about the possibilities, how this would actually work in a meta. He is not familiar with the mechanics of the game itself, as far as why X works the way it does. And he does not really understand how, basically simple math, how basically everything connected to the game, the logistics of the game, run and operate. By the way, he's made multiple rants videos that have had failings across these criteria. And by the way, he is an example of a systemic problem in the Hearthstone community. Because it's not just that they're salty and they're mad, it's that, and I don't even want to say entitled, it's just, it's almost like a me syndrome. Because they'll blame everything. They'll blame, it's always Blizzard's fault, and they will put extreme demands on Blizzard. They're essentially, they are demands and they are expectations that cannot possibly be met because they are ignorant and oftentimes willfully so about the realities of either how a CCG, the game works, how it's balanced, how the mechanics itself work, and just the logistics it takes just to do something as simple as making as far as changing a card. And I don't think these are really things that we really want to get into here, but there really is, as far as I think what, I said systemic because a lot of them, the main problem is they want to feel like a victim. At any point, they want to feel like a victim. Just look at it because it's always, I mean, Eddie, you can break this up into pretty much any of the major constant complaints. The reason they're so salty is because it's somebody else's fault.
On one end, I can give you at least a point there. There will be times where people will blame other things and other things like that. However,
there are people who get a little salty at times, and there is legitimate criticism. But by and large, you kind of see this play out.
Yeah, and if anything, one of the legitimate criticisms that we can make, and at least that can be made, is the randomness factor. One of them is that people, and it exists in all card games.
It does exist in all card games, and there's a reason it exists in a large part in this particular card game.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's digital, and you can do that.
Yes.
The reason you can't do that the reason other CCGs don't do that is because they are not digital. They basically you have to work within the limitations of that, and so basically that gives you control because you only have to deal with the physical actual cards.
Yeah. So on one end, I can honestly say that with the randomness factor, it's understandable. I can understand if I've got, my boot on the throat in a sense, and it's like, okay, I've been systematically running the clinic, so to speak, and have had the game on my, basically in my hands. I've done the right plays every step of the way. But then I'm right there, and then just the randomness factor kicked in. And something random my opponent was able to take and get, or get their hands on, flipped the momentum. Somehow, some way. And it just threw my game off entirely. To where now it's shit. And I don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
The back foot is gone then. And it's just like, okay, I made all the right systematic plays here, and then just that randomness factor twisted the game in his direction. And it's just one of those things to where when you, as I say, run the clinic, and you have done every right play, you have that one moment to where things flip. Like, I'll use Yogg. Yogg is my biggest example here. I know this is the extreme example, but, like, you have a Yogg that just comes out and then flips the table, in a sense. Or my opponent was able to discover the one thing he would need, and has kept a hold of it, and it's like, alright, I've got this, and it's game. Alright, we're good. Flip. Ugh, I forgot to think about that. And it's just one of those things where it's like, you lose track of it a lot of times, because there's so many things that you're trying to keep in your brain systematically to make sure that you've got this thing under control. Because you're keeping track of what your opponent's played, what you've played, what's left in your deck, what's left in their deck, if you can basically figure out like what they're playing. And then you just lose track of that one thing. Whether it be something that's been popped from a swashbuckler, or from like a Lyra, or whatever random factor thing it comes from. It is angering, because it's just like, I did everything right, and then that happened. And you're just like, but then you hit play, and you go on to the next game.
Does Hearthstone actually have too much RNG? Yeah, I think I could agree with that. I think that it does need to be scaled back. Do I think randomness is bad? No, I don't. And we could go into why, but that's not what this is about.
Yeah. Because
we've had this discussion at length, and I vastly disagree with a lot of your opinions on this.
I know, and I vastly disagree with yours as well, so it's just, that's a whole nother video where we'll just tear into each other, and I'm fine with that.
But
the second thing that was on this list was or at least in the article, was the buy-in factor.
Yeah, let me read this. Since Angora's launch, I've spent more than $120 on card packs and entry fees for the game's limited-time Heroic Tavern Brawl event, and I'm still missing most of the cards that would take me to build competitive decks for certain classes. I'm actually going to take the time and add up for the Angora launch to today and figure out how much money I've spent, okay? 1 second. I've probably spent between $130 and $150. Same criteria he's given here.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie?
Uh-huh.
On the competitive deck level, that I could basically build and throw something together and do decent. Where do I sit?
I would honestly throw you...
Keep in track. Keep in mind, I do not net deck.
Yeah.
But as far as being able to put things together, and whether it's getting cards, dusting, being able to just having the cards to throw together a deck, or being able to throw together a deck, where do I sit? Having spent about the same amount this guy has.
I would say you sit somewhere in better than most, but you still have issues with going in the optimal sort of thing. Because I have talked with you at length about some of your decks, and some of the things that you could put in.
Yeah, but we're talking about as far as having the cards to build competitive decks.
Yeah.
And I can say that I think you would agree that having spent about the same amount of money, probably a little bit more, I can pretty much get any of the cards I need to build a optimal competitive deck if I really wanted to.
If you really truly wanted to go full on try hard competitive, I know you could. You've got the cards for it, and you've got the brain for it.
So here's the thing: is that's why I have issues when people complain about the money. I'm going, seriously? And I can see it if like I don't have all the things for net decking this. It's like going, then improvise. Who knows? You might surprise yourself by coming up with something off the wall that works.
And if anything, it's not even the whole ideal of optimize, because like the two biggest things that he mentions here is Taunt Warrior and Control Paladin. Yes, those decks are fucking expensive.
But a lot of the stuff that you need for those decks, and I'm sorry, but a lot of the stuff you need for those decks, if you've been playing for a while, you probably have a lot of the key components, and then it's just a matter of at launch and basically as far as prioritizing your crafting, it's not going to take too much more to get. And again, in those cases, there is some wiggle room. And the decks can still be effective.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I take a look at right now, because we just had the Spring Championship for the EU side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, I'm looking right now, and I will screenshot this. These are the top 8 players. These are their deck lists and the dust they had to spend on them. Some of the decks, yes, are in the upward high-end digits of 5 and, you know, higher-end thousands of just so much dust. The winner, his highest deck is 11,240 dust, and that's mid-range Paladin. The lowest is Secret Mage at 3,740 dust. And there's another player who's right below him who has 2,660 dust spent on his mid-range Hunter deck. Is that really that much to ask for?
Yeah, and
I mean, come on.
When you read this paragraph that's talking about the cost, he's not talking about I can't get the cards to actually optimally build my deck. He's talking about he's looking at deck lists. He's building somebody else's deck. He does not know how, if he needs to make replacements, what the best replacement to do. He doesn't have that knowledge, and so he gets frustrated when somebody says a rank 20 scrub with Bloodfist Ogre and back-to-back Lucky Primordial Driftclaw. Basically, a rank 20 scrub who doesn't have as much as he does, but basically knows deck building basics enough to build a better deck with what he has than somebody who can just net deck. So actually, let's talk about some of the real problems about what is leading up to this saltiness and this unease. And basically, I'm just going to name some. Because first of all, we need to talk about Brian Kibler recently did a video for OmniSlash about the cost of Ungoro. And he felt, because a lot of people were complaining about Hearthstone becoming too expensive. Now, Kibler is a very optimistic person, but I think he was wrong in this regard, because he thought the community thought it was too expensive because of quests, because quests seemed to be required, and he gave a lot of reasons of how that could be fixed, which I actually disagree on. We actually talked a little bit about that privately. But the thing is, the community was not upset about that. What the community actually was something that Kibler dismissed, but something that actually the community was angry about was they felt that the game was too expensive because of pack prices, which have not increased. They are talking about the EU pack prices, by the way. And people have actually done the math, And the EU prices, while in the EU they are more expensive than they were, when you look at as far as exchange rates, they actually cost the same as everywhere else in the world. All Blizzard did was adjust the prices to reflect everybody else, and that's just a fact. That's just because the money in the European second area of the world, whether it's the euro or the pound, all that money is devalued. It costs less than the American dollar. The American dollar just costs more, or that money is devalued. I don't know. I can't really get into economics, but they've done the math. So no, Hearthstone does not cost more, but they have the impression it does, and so they complain it does. And then they complain about, there's now going to be 3 expansions instead of 2 expansions in Adventure, which, by the way, they asked for. They asked for more cards a year, and now they're getting more cards a year, and they're complaining about it. And a lot of free-to-play, because they're going, it's going to be hard to play free-to-play, there's a lot of free-to-play players going, really? I think we can manage it. And I'm not exactly free-to-play, but I'm not exactly spending a buttload of money. Besides, I spend most of the money. I pre-order the next expansion, and then normally I get a $20 card about that time. So we're talking about $70 around the beginning of an expansion to get cards. That's I think what 65 to 70 packs, Eddie, to start off with.
Yeah.
And then in between expansions, I'm pretty much exclusively free-to-play. I might spend another $20 on special occasions, normally around Christmas, but that's about it. I'm free-to-play. Most of the stuff I get ends up between the initial packs I open and just the packs, and you can open about a pack every couple of days if you're just playing casually. If you're playing super try-hard, you can probably open at least 1 to 2 packs a day. If not more, if you're playing, let's say you're playing Arena, you'll probably definitely be opening more. Okay? Given that, guys, it's not too difficult to get what you want, whether by opening packs or getting the dust getting the dust to craft whatever that legendary is or whatever that one card is. And by the way, to give you an estimate, it takes about of just opening the packs for me casually. And we're talking about a pack maybe every 2 days, if I'm getting on every day. That's about a month. A legendary month. Okay? At least a legendary month. Normally, if you're opening 70 packs at the beginning, you have at least enough dust for 1 or 2 legendaries. Okay? So let's say you open up your 70 packs to start an expansion. You're probably getting about at least 3 legendaries. Okay? So we're saying minimum of 3. Then you probably have a dust for 2. And then you have 3 months until the next expansion, so there's 3 more. Guys, that's 8 legendaries. If you're still having problems with 8 legendaries, my point is, free-to-play players who are actually kind of better at this than I am, who are probably playing a bit more, they're fine. 3 expansions a year is not a lot, and it's actually going to be healthier for the game. Now, there's also the complaint. And we're just going to get into the conspiracy theories, I think, about now, because there end up being 2 conspiracy theories. One, that the packs are rigged, and Blizzard is purposely giving us duplicate cards, or blah 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 blah. It's been mathematically disproven.
Just get that thought out of your head.
Get the thought out of your head.
Just get it out, please.
I think we're going to. I'll link another thread that has actually done the math on it. Get that thought out of your head. It's actually legitimately random. You think, and then not only that, there's also conspiracy theory that I always go against decks that line up perfectly against mine and can beat mine, and then when I switch my decks, when I go, okay, I'm going to beat this, and I switch my decks, I don't see them anymore. Blizzard is intentionally effing with me. Seriously, you think the executives at Blizzard have nothing better to do than just say, Eddie Phoenix is opening a pack right now, or Eddie Phoenix is changing his deck from
slow
from that control paladin to pirates. Let's just make sure he gets bad matchups. You really think Blizzard cares that much?
I joke, if anything.
Well, I'm giving you as an example. And so when I basically said that there's a me syndrome there, and you're going, oh, Bob, I'm going, seriously? These are the complaints we're getting. And you don't think there's a lot of entitlement or a lot of, I have to be the victim here? Now, let's actually talk about some stuff about in-game that can lead up to this. And I think one thing that makes Hearthstone different from a lot of other games, when we're talking about on the competitive scene, or when it comes to could be the competitive scene, is the feeling that a lot of people think that they could make it. And I'm going to burst your bubble, Eddie.
Still think I can.
Not a lot of people are going to make it. And the problem is you have a lot of these players who lose track of what made the game fun in the first place. Because they have to push, and they have to push, and they have to push. So they end up hating themselves, and they end up hating the game, and they suck all the joy out of the game. Because they have, instead of just playing and actually being good and saying, I'm just going to play, and I can probably make this, they have to push for that high rank. And if they don't get it, or if they have a hard time across the way, this game and these decks that I play against, and that's why you have all of these aggro decks, all these decks that people hate, because there are some people who enjoy playing them, but you have a lot of people that lose sight of why they play in the first place, and they get angry about it, and they play those decks, and it just ends up becoming a vicious cycle.
That's where your vicious cycle is, really, in all honesty.
And it's a vicious cycle that, I'm going to be honest, Eddie, I think you're actually coming out of it. But over the past couple weeks, you fell into this.
I fell into it really hard.
And I watched you going full tilt at it, and pretty much, because what happens is that when you push so hard and you actually can't reach those high echelons, because you actually expect more of yourself than you're actually capable of, or whether it's because of time or whatever, then you get salty and mad, and it's not your fault.
And the thing being there is that I don't say that it's not my fault. I know it's my fault.
Yeah.
I expect better of myself is the worst part. And that's where I have that problem. And I know it's a self-inflicted problem. I admit this.
Yeah.
I admit this to not only you, but I admit this to anyone who listens to this right now. I have a self-inflicted problem of knowing, because I have hit those ranks and hit those floors where it is hard to get there.
And then you go off, and I can hear you going off in my ear, and I'm going, this is the problem. Because basically, if you stop and listen to you, this is why the Hearthstone community is so toxic.
I know. And like I said, I know that that's a self-inflicted problem. That is my problem, and that's the thing. I know I can be better, and I know I can be better about things. It's just there are times to where, like right now, I'm honestly detoxing in a sense. Because I've been playing Fire Emblem more, I've been playing some Zelda, and I'm also looking forward to other games, because it's like, okay, look, I get it. I know that right now I have the time to be able to sit down and dedicate to this daggone game if I want to be able to try and get Winter Champion, Summer, Spring, whatever. I have the time for it. Mentally, it's a strain. And it is a drain on my brain at this point. Because it's just like, well, I know I could probably go for it. I just don't flip and have it within myself to just sit and just get angry and salty all the time. I don't. Because it's just like, when it comes to actual gaming, this is what I'm here for. I'm here for the fun of it. I'm here for being able to just go, okay, I can get up, 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 and potentially hit that rank that I know I can hit. And then I can just relax. Or I can just play and just have fun.
Yeah. I was hoping that maybe we go and codify this to a brilliant list, but I'm sorry, this is not going to be a brilliant list that can go, these are the problems, this is how you... I'm going to give a general overall thing, and I'm going to use my experiences and Eddie's experience, and I'm going to be brutally honest and probably say some things that Eddie doesn't want to hear. I think I've expressed some of this before, and this is just stuff that if you're listening to this and you're experiencing these problems and you're part of this vicious cycle, or this might happen to you, these might be some stuff that you need to take a step back and you might need to realize, and these are going to be might be some painful realizations about yourself. And I'm just going to give an example of me, and this came back in the Gadgets and meta. This was back when I was going to go, I'm going to try getting in these tournaments or whatever, because, you know, and I actually went to mainly, I kind of want, for the most part, I wanted the card back. But it was going to be my main tournament to try to maybe make my way to an event or something. So I went to this this Tavern Hero little small tournament at this game shop up in, I think it was St. Augustine. And I played. I probably could have done better. I probably could have had a better selection of decks, but
more optimized decks.
Or optimized decks, whatever. And it wasn't too bad. I did. I won one match, and I did decent against another one where probably if I would have selected my decks in different order, I probably could have won it. But after I came back from that, and I came back and came home, and I was playing Hearthstone, I came to the realization I was not having fun anymore. We talked about the Gadgets meta being bad, but that was basically the Gadgets meta also hit at the time when I was trying to try hard a little bit to do better on a competitive level, and I realized that I was actually avoiding the game. And yes, part of that had to do with Gadget's Hand, but mainly it was also because of just the pressures that come when you're trying to push yourself that hard, and realistically, you can't obtain it. You can do okay, but you're never going to go far. And I can't remember how many different tournaments I was in, and even you were in, and they were complaining because you never got past round 2. There
were a few tournaments where it was just like I hit that wall, and it's like, all right, I hit this wall in a sense. Because it's like the first round, my deck would cooperate, and then like the second round, it was just, and I think my hands were just,
I think what a lot of people are missing that maybe, yeah, maybe the ladder does need to be optimized a bit. It needs to be tweaked a little bit more. I'm glad they put the floors in because it was something that was needed. But
floors are a lifesaver.
It's also something that people, I think, don't realize that in reality, maybe the rank system actually works and we don't want to admit it. Maybe in reality, you are not a Legend player. Now, you may get to Legend one day. I want to get to a Legend one day. But I'm going to outright say, I'm facing reality right now that as of this moment, I am not Legend material. I am not competitive material. I'll probably get to Legend maybe once, but I am not that caliber of player. I can get to 15 definitely, probably 10 if I pushed hard enough. But that's where I am. It's better. It's actually better than a lot of the player base, but I'm probably a rank 15 to 10 player. Eddie, you're probably more around the higher point of that, but you are not a competitive player either. Most people who are striving for this are not at that level because it takes something more than what you think it does. And the problem is, if you keep on going for that and you're not ready for it and you're not up to snuff, it will chew you up and spit you out because you are not ready for that. And probably, as good as you think you are not good enough. And that's the thing. A lot of people, because they want to push for the higher ranks, that's why the net decking is happening, is they're not stopping to enjoy the game. Guys, stop and enjoy the game. Really slow down. Realize that you are probably not as good as you think you are. You can get better. And, you know, that's okay if you end up being rank 15 or rank 10. It's okay. Build the decks you want to build. Learn how to play the way you want to play. Enjoy the decks you want to play with, and have fun and play with those. Because if you actually get a high rank with those type of decks, it'll be way more rewarding than throwing a deck everybody has and a deck that you hate and just grinding and letting it crush your soul. Because that is what is causing the toxic community that we have right now. And let's be honest, it's not going to change. But if you listen to this and you realize why it exists, and if you actually can notice it in yourself and you can stop it, it's going to be a lot healthier for you. If Standard's not up to speed, not doing well for Standard, or you're not doing with the deck, or not whatever, go to Wild. Mess around. Build a deck you want to play with. Look at a lot of the pro streamers out there who play Hearthstone, who play on ladder, and who are actually very good and are legend players. Watch what they do, because they're not going with the I'm getting this deck to level. They are building decks that they want and they like, and it may be slow at times, and maybe sometimes they don't go up, but they get there, and then they do well, because they know the basics, and they play and they build what they want. Emulate them, not the decks they play. Emulate them as far as how you play the game, and you will enjoy the game a lot better, and you'll do a lot better, and you'll at least cut this off one head at a time. And that's all we can do here. And I know this is going to be hard to hear, that you're not as good as you think you are. And I'm not saying that you're all level 15, you're all level 10. Some of you may be constant legend, but that does not mean you are competitive level. Some of you may be competitive level, and you probably already realize that. But the thing is that this overachieving bullcrap is what's causing the problem in the first place, and we need to realize that, and we need to play this game for fun, play the decks we want to play, and you know what? That's going to make a more enjoyable meta and a more enjoyable game. Let's do this crap.
Now, he has that side of the coin, to where I'll flip over the other side. If you actually want to attempt the run, in a sense, or at least attempt to go in on this climb to be the next Pavel, Kalento, or these other high-end, high-ranking Hearthstone players, to try to either make it or something along those lines. The first thing you have to do is get not only yourself centered to be better, but you also have to play better in that sense. And it's not this whole thing of also figuring out your attitude, if anything, because I just derailed my own thought and then just went to this. Know your playstyle first and foremost. Are you a casual player of the Ends of Bulb, of knowing that, okay, I will not make this run, and I will not be this level, but I want to get to here. Set a realistic goal for yourself. Make it. You make that, then you go, okay, I made this, I can go try to go with this. After that, you then start going, okay, I can potentially make this run, or at least try to be at this level. You then really start to wrap your mind around not only the concept, the numbers, everything else that actually goes in with this game. And you either watch other streamers to where you can, oh, there's an actual thing there to where they could do this better, or at least they could have done that, and it would have done this and that. Because, if anything, I love watching the HCTs, or the Hearthstone Championship Tours, or I need to watch more of the Hearthstone Global Games, because it's just I love watching those as well. Because it gives me that outsider perspective, and I can just go, okay, this player does this at this time, and then that chain happens, and then that. It gives me that ideal and just perspective of just being able to go, okay, here's how I know I can improve my play, is if I do this and this and this. Or maybe I include this in my deck to be able to make it to where I can counter this. But that first step has to be, am I someone who is actually legit enough to be able to actually make the go up to be in the running Or am I actually just a casual person who enjoys just playing the game and just, uses my dust to be able to just build fun, wonky decks? Before the floors actually and actively hit, I was able to achieve rank 5 with Jade Druid. And that, at the time, was during that fast-paced, pirate-heavy Gadget Zan meta. And I hit it right towards the end of the month. And if anything, I can say I'm damn proud of that because I actually hit it before the floors were implemented. Afterwards, my highest rank has been 4. And then slides happen. You are going to have moments to where you climb, and then you slide. You have to realize at the point when you know that you're throwing games in a sense as well. You have to realize, okay, I'm on tilt. I need to shut this fucking game off and walk away. Because if you don't, the slide and the salt and the tilt will be so deep. And the salt mines, they go deep. I speak from experience on this one. I know how deep they can run.
And I've been there too.
He's bared witness. I have streams of it where it's happened. You have to know. You have to know when to just stop and just go, nope, and walk. Because if you don't, then you're going to get that cynical mindset. Then you're going to hit the salt mines. And then you just hit this vicious cycle. I get it. You want to be, and you want to be able to braggart to people like, yeah, I hit this rank in Hearthstone, and I can do this, and I'm this level. I get it. But realistically, you gotta not do that. You gotta figure out where you sit. And don't be so hard on yourself. Honestly, it's one of the biggest things I have a problem with is that I'm super hard on myself. And I admit this. I 1,000,000% admit it. But it's one of those things to where it's just like, right now, when I have nothing else to do, because I'm trying to do other things with my time and with my life right now, it's nice to dream. It's nice to want and like have aspirations for something. But I also gotta be realistic with myself. And it's just, stop the vicious cycle. Break the cycle. It's not this whole thing of just, you have to walk away from the game. And again, I'm not trying to lick the boots of Blizzard. I know Blizzard doesn't give 1 ounce of a fuck if I walk away from this game. And I don't give them any money. I realistically know this. So I'm not trying to hold them on this high-end pedestal. What I'm attempting to do is trying to be like, look, this is a heartfelt heart-to-heart for you guys. Just look, think about this for a second. This metagame right now with Angoro is not horrible. Right now, the only class that I've seen and I've been able to look at, not highly represented, is Warlock. But even then, I still see it in the offshoots, in different areas. You still see people who play it, people who enjoy the zoo decks or their handlock and try to optimize it. Those are the people who not only get dedication awards, and at least props from me, but you also get my respect for that sort of thing. You sat through just everything, and you're still trying with it. Kudos. I'm still going to try to stomp you, but kudos. Bulb, do you want to send us out?
Final thoughts, if nothing else, just remember these 2 things. Learn your limits, and have fun.
That's the biggest thing. Have fun. That's what fucking video games are for.
See you guys later.